on credit cards. As the mayor earlier discussed, oftentimes credit card expenditures have no accompanying receipts. And the credit card statements alone provide limited information about the credit card purchases. Given this overall lack of available documentation, it is not possible for us to ascertain important information about the village's credit card use, such as who made the purchase, was it an approved purchase, and what was the government purpose. This type of additional information is necessary to perform a complete investigation of the credit card use and to draw any conclusion about any individual purchase. That being said, through our investigation, we did identify certain categories of expenses that stand out, which the village may wish to pursue additional information to further understand the nature of the charges. For example, from 2021 through June of 2024, village credit cards were used for over $171,000 in travel-related costs. Things such as airfare, excess baggage fees, hotels, meals, rental cars. There are over $51,000 spent at local area restaurants, as well as expenditures at retailers such as Dick's Sporting Goods, Best Buy, Wayfair, Walgreens, Apple, and Walmart. Now, some of these expenditures, but not all, are reflected on the electronic warrant lists that we were provided and reviewed. However, the level of detail in the description of what the purchase is for varies by purchase. Some purchases have very limited information, and the description is simply the name of the merchant, or a more vague description such as meals or donuts. Others provide more information, such as training accommodations or code enforcement lunch. One area in our investigation where we were able to obtain detailed purchase information relates to Amazon purchases. The vast majority of purchases made by the village on Amazon were paid for with village credit cards. From January 2021 through June of 2024, the village spent approximately $218,000 on purchase from Amazon using village credit cards, the largest spending of which occurred in 2023. Now, the vast majority of the purchases on Amazon do appear to be for routine items such as office supplies, office furniture, and supplies for the police department. And the Amazon order details show that these orders were delivered either to Village Hall or to the police department. Additionally, many of the largest purchases on Amazon, 3 of which we identified in the August presentation, were related to materials or supplies for the skating rink. This includes $5,099 for artificial ice tiles, $33,000 for artificial ice tiles, $5,600 artificial ice tiles, $4,700 artificial ice tiles, and then $3,700 for ice skates.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just pick up and conclude on the Amazon purchases. The various routine office supply and office furniture purchases simply do not appear to be in compliance with the village's purchasing policy as we described. There appears to be no centralized purchasing or inventory control as required in the purchasing policy. So while we were able to see that these various purchases were delivered either to Village Hall or to the police department, there is no tracking system for what happened to them after they arrived here. And while Janice Johnson was listed as the originator for a number of these purchases, what we saw in the Amazon records is that there were 9 other purchasing sources identified in the Amazon records. So lots of people were charging things and purchasing them from Amazon. And we similarly found no evidence that the purchases related to the ice rink that were done in 5 separate purchases totaling approximately $48,000 that they were done consistent with the purchasing policy either. For example, we were unable to find evidence that these purchases were done as a result of competitive bidding process, which an amount of that size would have been triggered by the purchasing policy, nor is there evidence that these particular purchases were presented to the board prior to approval. As you will see, one of the recommendations that we're making to the board is to institute a written policy for performing background checks of prospective village senior and key personnel. There are 3 personnel that we call out on this slide, and based on our investigation, these and other individuals either working for the village or proposed by Mayor Henyard to assume key roles have issues in their background that likely would be disqualifying if they had been properly vetted. Now, I want to go through some of the consequences, because of course there has been consequences of all the things that we've already talked about. You can't have a situation where there are no financial controls, where the trustees are systematically excluded from finding out the true nature of the financial condition of the village, where there's a routine process of exceeding the amounts of revenue with expenses, some of which may or may not be for a legitimate government purpose. The first of these cascading consequences is the audit. As I noted at the beginning of this presentation, under Illinois law, every municipality over a certain size is required to have a financial audit of its books and records every single year, and to produce that audit to the comptroller's office. The fact of the matter is that for the last several years, the village's auditor had been an accounting firm, an auditing firm known as Lauterbach and Amann. Draft audits for fiscal year 2022 were completed, but they were never finalized. And then Lauterbach and Amann resigned as auditor on October 27, 2024, effective immediately, which is essentially less than 3 weeks after we had our first public disclosure of the true financial condition of the village. And on October 15, 2024, the Illinois Comptroller's Office notified the village that it was going to force an audit on the village for not complying with the mandatory audit reporting requirement. Now, as I noted, there are literally hundreds of municipalities across this state that have long-standing delinquencies in filing their reports. But for some reason, the comptroller decided that Dolton was going to be the example. Next slide. One of the other consequences that we have seen over the course of Mayor Henyard's tenure is a significant uptick in litigation. According to court records maintained by the Legislative Council, 48 separate lawsuits have been filed against the village under Mayor Henyard's tenure. 12 pending matters relate to FOIA violations, and 8 pending matters by village vendors allege improper revocation or failure to renew business licenses. And you may have seen recent reporting that on Friday, Mayor Henyard herself was held in criminal contempt for failing to sign a liquor license for an existing business owner here in the village, despite being ordered by the court to do so multiple times. Those have costs. Next, I want to walk you through the insurance issue, because insurance is a significant cost in the budget for the village of Dolton. The village's insurance fees are primarily handled by 2 entities: an insurance broker, which is Insurer Source LLC, and something called a third-party administrator, which currently is Charles Taylor, TPA. In 2024, the village's insurance coverage became at risk due to late or non-payment of fees. The village's premium financing company sought to avoid its contract with the village, and let me explain what that means. there is a finance company that fronts the money for the village's various insurance costs, and the village pays it back on a monthly basis. But because of non-payment, that finance company walked away from its responsibilities and said, we're not going to we're not going to finance any future funds to the village to pay its insurance. That created a bit of a crisis. The village's longtime third-party administrator, that's the entity that then pays claims that are made by people that trigger the insurance policies. That third-party administrator also walked away and refused to renew its agreement with the village, again, as a result of problems in payment. And then long-time insurance carriers. The village has, like most municipalities, has multiple insurance carriers that cover their insurance, particularly liability insurance. Many of those long-time carriers canceled in the spring of 2024 or declined to renew the village's policies.